it makes sense. It was 3 hours, but I hope that I was so dedicated and I've covered everything that I wanted to cover here. We were recording this session, as you might have seen, and then tomorrow we're gonna, chop it up, and we're gonna chop it all up. Okay, I want to go to the course platform and show you how the recordings are, are looking, because all the recordings from all of the previous workshops, they are already uploaded. And let me show you very quickly here how it all looks. So right now, I did not talk about the funnel. Okay, so right now, as you can see, these are all the recordings. So we have session 1, it has all of these videos. Session 2 with all these videos. Session 3 is a session we had last weekend, which is this one here, and it had all of these videos. That's session, this one right here, session 3. This is session 4, and I'm going to chop it all up so that it's easier for you to follow. And then I'm going to upload it tomorrow in the course platform. So everyone who has access to the recordings, everyone who has the recordings, and everyone who is a pro member or has bought the recordings will have access to that. If you want to know how to buy the recordings, then go to the pro bundle and just buy the pro bundle. You get access to everything, including the recordings of all of these sessions. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I know I have left out certain ones that I haven't talked about, but because of time, I'm also really tired at the moment, honestly. So I apologize for that. So I'm not going to be able to cover everything else. But if you'd like to get access to the recordings, the information is right there. Or you can go to https:// and data for dev.com/pro. You can buy our pro bundle for just $80. Gives you lifetime access to all of the courses that we have in our course platform. It was really wonderful to have you here, to be honest. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see you in the course platform. Do something else. Okay, I'm gonna move everything else that requires custom visuals to the end so that we can talk about that right at the end. We talked about composition, so let's move everything else that we need to download to go to the end. All right. Okay, next up, I think let's talk about geospatial visuals. Let's talk about geospatial visuals. So when it comes to geospatial visuals, basically what you're trying to do is you're now putting data on a map. And this is really powerful, especially for us M&D people, like data managers in nonprofits, because you mostly want to be able to see where people are or see where things are happening. And most dashboards, you want to have that dimension, that third dimension of data, which is basically the locations or the map. So we have several kinds of maps. We have the map, which is a simple point map, okay? And then we have the field map, or called the colorpleth map? Colorpleth map, from the word color. So it's all about shading different areas of your map. We have Azure, do you say Azure? Azure maps, which have more things that you can add. They're gonna use the native Microsoft maps. We have ArcGIS maps, which I think they require you to have ArcGIS account, and then you have a shape map. The shape map is good if you have a custom shape layers or shape files. So if you have a custom shape file in the format of a JSON file, we're not going to show that now, but if you have, I've used that before, where if you can download, you can, for those of you who know GIS, all right, so we have a data format that's very common to use in GIS software, which is called a shape file, and you can convert a shape file into a JSON shapefile, and then you can use that, upload it on the shape map, and it's gonna basically have those like custom shape maps, which are because if you're using the map or you're using the field map, the background is usually a Microsoft map. Okay, if that doesn't cut for you and you want a custom shape map, then you can use the shape map visual. All right. So I don't have a shape map to show, but I'm just going to show you here. So this is the this is a shape map. This is the field map, and then you have the map. So you have the map, the shape map, the field map, and the shape map. So the map is going to use Microsoft Maps as the background, like the backdrop of it, and so that's the same thing with a field map. It's also going to have Microsoft Maps on the background. But if you want to have your own maps as a background, then you're going to use a shape map. If you use a shape map, you have to attach the actual shape file. And you do that in the settings, I think, but then you have to add the data first. Once you add the data, then you go to the settings, you're going to see somewhere where you have to add your shape file. Okay, I can try to see if I can download a JSON shape file. Let me see if I can download a JSON shape file very quickly so I can show you as an example, because we're dedicated here. Let me see, map of Malawi JSON shape file. Okay, so the format is called a GeoJSON. So I have, wow, this is nice. So I have this, okay. I have the GeoJSON file, which is wonderful. I didn't know that. Okay, so we are gonna show that after all. We're dedicated here. So we're gonna show that after all. It's okay. But let's start with the map, because that's gonna use the point information. So I'm just gonna use the map, and in the tense, and we do have GPS locations. So I'm gonna choose the map, and then you need either names of locations. Now those ones are not very accurate. Names of locations can be similar, so they're not very accurate. So I usually just like to use the latitude and longitude fields if we are collecting them. So this data is coming from Kobo Toolbox, and Kobo Toolbox is able to collect point data. So we do have the fields here. We have the altitude, longitude. You're gonna drop the latitude field on the latitude field, then you're gonna drop the longitude field on the longitude field. And as you can see, you have a backdrop of a Microsoft map, and I can zoom in, and you can see that these maps, this is the map of Malawi, and that's that, and you have the point information there. And you can now the next thing you need to do is to add the field that shows either the colors, which is going to be the legend, or the actual value. So the circle is going to be either bigger or smaller depending on the value you have. So for example, I can, what should I use? There's clinics here, so I can count the number of clinics by using the index. So I can grab the index, and I can put that index in the value. So there's legend there, then there's bubble size. So I can grab the index, put it in the bubble size, and it's going to be the count of index. So as you can see here, the size of the bubble is going to be how many people or how many clinics were done that specific spot. So you can see we have a bigger one there, you have a smaller one, and things like that. So those are bubbles, and then you can even have a legend. So you can grab, for example, I can grab the district and put it in the legend. So now we're gonna have different colors different colors depending. You can see here you have different colors depending on the values that you have there. So that's the map. Okay. Does this happen in any Power BI? Yeah, it happens in any version of Power BI. There's nothing like perfect, whatever. It's there. It's right there in any Power BI. So that's the map visual right there. I'm going to switch to the field map, and you're going to see that here, you don't need the legend. So, okay, the latitude goes on the latitude. Okay, you have latitude, you have longitude. Now, this one now is a bit, is quite different. Oh, which table was edited to clients? No, that data set is called. You should download the data set again, probably. So that data set is called data. It's just called data. So use this one. Go back to the link again and download this one. It should just come as clinics and clients like that. Okay, that's the data set. It's already named like that. Okay, so when you're using a field map like this, so you can have the color saturations, and then you have the legend, then color saturations. So for example, on the color saturations, I can use a district. Okay, count of district. Yeah, anyway, let's leave it like that. And then if I go to the format in the map settings, here it says map type USA. And I can click the drop down and scroll down. You already have these countries. But if your country is not here, then you go to custom map. And here you're going to add a map type. So I'm going to click on browse. And then I'm going to go in my downloads because I already have this. So this is the one. I'm going to put that in. And then it says Malawi.json. And that's the map that I have there. And it doesn't. OK, so sometimes you need to change the projection. Projection has to be Mercator because most of these are Mercator. And you can choose the zoom. I can auto zoom. In most cases, you want to auto zoom so everything fills up like that. And then when you go back, we don't have a field here that actually shows things. So for example, I can have district on location. Now the districts have to match with the exact names that you also have in the districts field in the specific JSON file or the shape file that you have added. So if this is not working perfectly well, it's just that maybe your actual data itself is not really tailored with the shape map that you have added. But I have designed a visual before using this, and it's actually nice because then you can add some more actions to the shapes and things like that. And also it only shows you the bounds of the specific map that you have attached, which becomes much cleaner than if you're using Microsoft Maps as the backdrop, because it's going to show lots of other information, which sometimes adds to the clutter. But if you use your own shape map, it becomes much easier to see because it's much cleaner, because in the shape map, you just choose the specific areas that you want to show. So I've just shown you here, but the files are called GeoJSON files. If you want to, you can just search the specific area online and say GeoJSON, or you can find a shape file and then convert it to a GeoJSON. There are websites that can do that on the internet. Just Google convert shape file into GeoJSON, and you're gonna find a website that will do that for you. It's very easy to find JSON file, shape files. Okay, so for example, here I can say shape file to GeoJSON, something like that. If you have a shape file, so you can see there's this one here, and it's going to convert your shape file. And I use this one, so you can download a shape file, or if you have created your own shape file in a software like QGIS, you can drop it here, and then it's going to convert it into your GeoJSON, and then you can download that. And that's what you're going to attach right here in the map settings. where it says add map type and you choose custom, you're going to attach it there. And it's going to draw the boundaries for your GeoJSON file right here. And then you can add your visuals. Just make sure that the field from the GeoJSON file. So right now, it's going to go back and show, for example, here, these fields, they have to be the same. So you can see that the GeoJSON, we do have the districts, but I don't know what this field was called in the GeoJSON, and if it doesn't match up, then it's not going to show, and that's pretty much what's happening here. It's not matching up. So I need to know specifically what field was this code there, so that the field that I have should also be the same name, and then the data is going to match up, and then it's going to draw the map in Power BI. Okay, so because of time, we're not going to show that at the moment, but that's that. We can switch back to, I think, the map, because I think that's what you're going to be using mostly. I'm going to drag the latitude information, and I'm going to drag it into the latitude, the longitude. I'm going to drop it in the longitude, and I can grab, like I've said, I can grab the index and throw it right on the bubble size, not legend, but bubble size. Let's see, where are we? Bubble size. You want to have a field that contains numbers, or the one that you're going to be using as values, and it says count of index. Here I can say number of clinics. That stands for number of clinics, and that's going to show you that. And here we go. You have a map like that. So that's geospatial visuals. You do have other visuals, like I've said, which are geospatial. For example, you have the Azure map, and then you have the you also have the ArcGIS map, which is not here, but you can turn it on by going to File and choosing Settings and Options. Going to the options, I think there's a section of the options where you can see the those things. So I think, let me see where that is. Yeah, so report settings. So there are certain settings here that when you turn on, they will turn on that specific kind of chart. You just have to, go through this and find that. All right. Yeah, the shapefile seems admin regions and not districts. Yeah, that's the problem. If the field name is not the same with as the field name that's coming from the JSON file, it's not going to show up. So you need to make sure that you control that. You need to make sure that you know. So one way to know is you can import this into ArcGIS, for example. ArcGIS is going to show you the data table attached to the shapefile, and you can see the field name. And you make sure that the field name that you are using here is the same as that field name, and that's going to render on your map. Okay, let's move on from that, but that's quite exciting. So please go ahead, when you have time, just go ahead and practice that on your own. And in the next session, we're going to discuss, what you have found. If you have any questions, we're going to talk about those. All right. So now out, because these are now very important, and these are the type of, especially the card. You've seen me, like, from the workshops, rather the session that we have had before. When I'm designing any type of dashboard, I always start with a card, and this is because in most cases dashboards have to do with showing what we call KPIs, or key performance indicators. Because you're showing key performance indicators, the best way to show performance indicators is either by using a card, okay, or a MATI raw card, or using a gauge, or using what we call the KPI visual. The KPI visual is going to show you the current value versus the target value, and it's going to show you a trend with a spark line. So it's going to show you a trend whether you're going up to the target, or you're slacking off. The gauge is really nice because then it's going to show you, it's a dial that shows you how far you are from different positions, between the minimum position, a target position, and the maximum position. So while the card is just going to show you a key, that you're just gonna use it to show the key metrics. So in most cases, you're showing one number. So let's take a look at these. So I'm just gonna call this KPI. And as you know, okay, okay, as you know, I always like to use a new card, okay, the one that says card new. This, I like this one because you don't have to do manual layout, lay the cards around. It does the layout on its own, so it becomes much easier to use. So I really like to use them, and it just gives you the value as one single number. That's easy enough. Okay, total number of people, and let's create a measure here. I'm just gonna use total. Okay, total people, and then I'm gonna say that of in the transfer total number of people. I just like to have a measure, so I can drag and drop it there, and I'm gonna have the total number of people like that. So I really love cards because they just show one single number as your key indicator. So on every dashboard that I build, I always start with that. I always start with the cards. And okay, that's that. Now that's the card. We've done the card so many times, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it. But maybe let's talk about the gauge, because the gauge is really nice. Like I mentioned, the gauge is all about showing how far off you are from different points. And these points can be, a maximum point or a target point and things like that. Now, if you remember, we created a measure that has just one single number here, just has 1 million, which is our target for the total amounts. And I'm gonna use that really. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna drag the total amount first. I'm gonna drop it on the gauge, and it shows. And by default, it just says, okay, you're 50% off. But we're not necessarily like 50% off. Sorry. What's going on? All right. So, all right. So we know that we're not necessarily 50%. So it says, oh, okay, 605,000. Oh, it actually 605,000 over to a 1 million. Okay, that's nice. So now what you do is, I want you to take a look at, let's zoom this. I want you to take a look at the type of fields that it's expecting from you. So the actual value is the total amounts that we want to have. So that's the actual value. And then you can have the minimum value, you can have the maximum value, and then you can have the target value. So what I like to do is I like to grab the target and I'll put it on the target value. Okay, so as you can see, it shows that the target value is right here. But as you can see, the target value is not necessarily right at the end here. It's just being shown as a line there. If you want the target value to also be the maximum, then what you can do is you can grab the same target value and just drop it on the maximum space here. Okay, and that's what I usually like to do. So I'm gonna grab the same value, which is my target, and put it on the target value, and then I'm gonna drag the same one and put it on the maximum value, and that allows you to have the target value to be the end of the gauge. And as you can see here, this is the end of the gauge, and it shows that this is our end value, which is 1 million, and it shows that the amount we have now is 605,000, and our target is 1 million. So the gauge is really nice. It's kind of like your progress bar, but it's in a form of a gauge, basically showing you where you are in relation to where you're getting to, whether it's a maximum or whether it's a target. So that's the gauge. Very important. If you're building a real-time dashboard for your monitoring and evaluation, you have, let's say you have indicators, and those indicators have targets, then you can use this. You can use the targets and put them there. And as data is coming in, whether it's going in the Microsoft Excel file or it's going to Cobo 2 box, and as the data is coming in, these target, or rather the values are going to be changing towards the target, and you can quickly show your donors or whatever stakeholders that you have, that that's how far you're doing, how you're going over to that, so to the target. So that's some of the KPI ones. Okay, which is wonderful. And then we have the Marty Roll card, which is this one here, the Marty Roll card, which is about excuse me, having multiple rows. I can grab the total amounts. I can also grab the total number of people. And basically, if I make this small, it's just going to have the numbers going as in rows. So instead of having this going this way, like one single row, this is just going to be going downwards to multiple rows. That's the whole idea of the multi-row card. Is if you have multiple values that you want to show, and you just want to show one on top of the other, then you're going to use the multi-row card. It's not as pretty, so I usually just like to use this one because, as you can see, this is much pretty. I can style it nicely, have backgrounds and things like that. Okay. So that's tracking progress towards a goal. Now, before we move ahead, I want to show some, formatting that you can do. I know there are some other charts that we haven't looked at, but because of time, I just wanted to take a moment here and show you some of the formatting that you can do on these charts, okay? And I always recommend that once you add the charts, for example, this card right here. In fact, let me actually have a single card. So I'm just going to put a single card. I'm going to put it right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the total amounts and I will drag and drop it there. So that gives us one single amount of 605,000. Okay. Now, as you can see, the card doesn't really look as nice, okay, as we would want it to look. So let's take a look at how you can customize this. Now, different charts or different visuals are going to have different kinds of ways in which you can customize them. If I switch to the Format Your Visual section, then you're going to have two tabs. You have the Visual tab and then you have the Journal tab. Like in most cases, you have those two different tabs. Now, what I like to do is you have the search bar at the top. So if you want a specific setting for your card, then you're going to find it there. But in most cases, if you're just learning Power BI, you don't know what the settings are named, you're not going to get it. So I always recommend to really just have a walkthrough of the settings so you can familiarize yourself with what kind of settings you're going to have. So, for example, I can expand here on the callout value, and then the callout value is this number here. How do I know that? So you can just start to make some changes and basically look at what's changing on the visual, and you can see that what's changing, because here I'm changing the font size, and you can see that it's this actual value that's changing. I can make it bold and it shows, okay, that's the value that's changing. All right, that's good. I can change the color of that. Okay, maybe let me make it blue, make it a lighter blue. Maybe this one. Yeah, that's the one. And you can see basically what's going on there and that. And okay. Now, for some of the settings, you're going to see something called FX. I'm going to get back to that, okay, because that's very important and it's super powerful. I'm going to get back to the FX because you're going to see basically what happens. Now, I'm going to make this a bit smaller, and I'm going to add a filter. So I'm going to add a slicer here. We've already seen a slicer somewhere there. And I'm going to add a filter here, and this filter is just going to be the district. And in the same fashion of customizing things, I'm going to go to the Format Your Visual. I'm going to go to Slicer Settings, and I'll choose that this is going to be a tile. So it makes it look like some buttons, something like that. So I like the buttons. They look really nice. So when I click, When I click, it filters things on the chart. So that's a kind of another kind of visual. And as you can see, it's really changing things. But let's focus on the card back again. Now, if I go back to the format your visual, we have talked about the callout value, and you have the display units. Right now, you can see the total amount that says 605K. If you don't like 605K, then you can choose on the display units. Okay, somebody asked this question, I think, at some point. So I'm showing this. You can say, okay, you want it in the thousands. It was automatic, so it was showing in the thousands. That's the display units. But I can say none, and that's going to show the actual value there. You can see there's a whole, the whole number is right there. If you want, that to be nicely formatted, then I can go to format. Sorry, not necessarily format. I can format the actual the actual measure itself. So I can grab on the measure, because that's the measure is total amounts. I can format it to add the comma, so you can see the moment I format the measure itself and add a comma, it goes like this. If I want to have decimals, I can add decimals there. And as you can see, everything else that contains is using that visual is going to be changed like that. So that is changing things, and I totally like that. Okay. Let's continue with the formatting. Now I'm going to go back to format your visual, and down here it says category label, and that's the label that we have down here. I can turn it on or turn it off. I can also maybe format it nicely. I can change the color of it if I want to. So for example, I can make it the dark blue, or I can make it whatever color I want. Just make sure that it's really making sense to the color that you choose. It just looks like a kid was just playing around. So I think I'm gonna take this blue kind of thing vibe going like that. And then I'm gonna switch to the general. So if you're looking for other formatting options like the background colors and things like that, then you're gonna find them in the general section. So when I go to the general section, right now it says title is off. If I click on, then I can type a title right here. Now for some charts, the title is going to come from the actual name of the fields that you have there. If you want to change the names of the title, you can change it and override it from here. So for example, if I select this here, you can see that the title says total amounts, target, blah, blah, blah. That's just because of the values that we're using. But I can change that, so I can say, okay, total amounts, this is target. I can name it like that. I can just change the title, name it like that. I can change the actual font itself. I can, put it on the center. And again, you're gonna see that we have this FX everywhere. And I'm gonna explain what that does. It's really powerful. It's really nice. Okay, let's just put back this font. I think I like it. It's a really nice font. Okay, so that's the title thing, and it's right in the general. We also have properties where you can see the sizes. If you want, let's say you have multiple cards and you want all the cards to be the exact same size, this is where you would really just make those small changes. For example, if I want the card to be 200 and the width to be exactly 500 pixels, I could do that. So that if I have other cards that are the exact same size as this one, then I want them to be the exact same size without having to worry about what's the size of that. So you can, change that here. And then you can lock aspect ratio. If you want that when you're resizing, the size should, it should resize in both directions. So as you can see here, it's resizing the height and the width in the same manner. So you can do something like that. That's aspect ratio. And again, if you have very precise dials in terms of where the thing is placed on the dashboard, then you can change the position. So for example, I want this to be on the 800 horizontal, and I want this to be 150. Then you can do that, and it's going to be moving things around based on the space that you have on there. So as you can see, you have so many things. Sometimes the values are knocking right against the boundaries of the visual. And sometimes I don't like that. I'll give you an example here. Look at this. I want you to look at this, this visual here. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a border around it. So I want you to see basically what happens. I'm going to add a border around it. And that is under effects. I go in the effects and I go on the visual border and I'll turn it on. I want you to look at that. It doesn't look good. The border is just too close to the title. Okay, the border is just too close to the title, and that's what we call padding. And you can change the padding by going to format your vision, and then when I go to journal and under properties, you have the padding. And the reason is that you can see the top padding is 0 pixels, which means there's no space between the border at the top and the title, 0 space. And that's why you have that knocking against the border there. I can change that. So for example, I can say I want 10 pixels at the top. Now you can see we've added some spacing there. I can go back and maybe say that I want that, you know, all around. I want that kind of spacing all around. So again, properties and then padding, and then I can say, okay, I want, actually let's do 15 pixels all around. So you can add like that. So the padding is like the spacing that's outside, like you know, spacing within inside of the visual before the content starts. That's what we call the padding. And now, as you can see, because we have added the padding, then that allows us to have that kind of nice spacing inside there. Okay, that's that. So that's the formatting part. We're still talking about the card. So we've talked about the title, the effects. In the effects, and you can have things like the background. So I can change the background, for example, to this gray, or if I don't like that, I can go to more colors, and I have precise controls over the specific color that I want. We're going to talk about colors when we talk about best practices when designing these things. So for example, I need a gray that looks like a bluish, and it's going to look very, very dull. And that's a very specific color. As you can see, it looks really wonderful. And once again, I can go in the effects again and add the visual border, and then I can change the border to a specific color. For example, I can change it to this blue. And as you can see, it's looking nice. So you might be wondering, how are you choosing those colors? How are you choosing the colors so that they can look really nice? I'm gonna give you a website. Okay, there's a website that I like to use when it comes to color theory. Now, I'm a designer, I tell you. I design websites and graphics, so I'm very much used to colors. So I know how to choose colors, but there's this website called coolers.co. I'm gonna drop it in the chat here. It's really wonderful. It's a really wonderful website where you can see how colors mix together. Okay, so for example, I can go to explore trending palettes. So it gives you basically colors and how they play well together. So as you can see here, these colors play well, these colors play well. So these are like themes of colors. And depending on your logos, your brand colors of your organization. So for example, if my organization is like green like this, then I could mix up these colors. So I would choose one of these colors to be my main color, and then I can use the other one for the borders. I can use the other one. So I would really welcome you to use this website, and you're gonna see how colors mix together. For example, these colors mix together. If I have to design a dashboard that utilizes these colors, it's gonna look nice. So here I just have to choose what's gonna be my background color, it's gonna be my border color, what's gonna be the background color for each of the visuals, and things like that. What's gonna be the color for the text. Of course, you don't wanna use like so many colors. Like I wouldn't necessarily use all of these colors. I would use probably 3 colors or 2 colors. And then you're gonna throw in the whites, the blacks, the grays, because you know those are kind of like neutral colors. They can be there. Is that free? Yes, it's 100% free. You can download each one of these colors for free. If you don't like the ones that are here, then you can always just generate your own palette. So you can click Start Generator, and then it's gonna just do a random generation. You just use your space bar to cycle through until your vibe tells you which ones are good colors. And sometimes you just choose a starting color, like I'm going to choose this red, and then you can lock it. So then you lock this color there, and then when you press the space bar, it's going to give you colors that will play well with the one that you started with. So you can just continue. I think this is nice. I can lock it, and I don't know. Let's see if I'm gonna be lucky. I think this works. I lock it, and that's how people came up with those colors. You can see. If you don't want to yourself, then you can just go to basically explore the colors that people already did. Choose 3 of those, and you choose those as ones that you're gonna use on your dashboard. We're going to come back to this, of course, next weekend when we talk about designing your dashboard, like the best practices in designing your dashboards. And I'm going to teach you from a design standpoint. Like I've said, I am a designer. I design graphics. I design websites. So I know color theory. I know how to mix lines and rounded borders and things like that. So make sure you don't miss that. Talking about round borders, I can go back here on the format your visual, go to general, and go to effects, and under visual border, I can add the rounded corners here just to make things look nice. I'm gonna do like 10 pixels rounded border, and it gives you something that looks like that. It's absolutely looking massive right there. You have so many other things here. If you want to add more information to the chart, you can turn on the tooltips, and you can choose what you want the tooltips to be. And now, I haven't missed it. We still have time. Don't worry. We're gonna go back to the FX. I know time is running. So, all right. So here, you in most cases, on all charts, you're gonna have code tips. And that's basically when you hover over the visual, you have something that pops up. It shows up like this. So total amounts, blah, blah, blah. If I go to this, if I point, it's going to show me the tooltip. If there's no tooltip, then you can add it. So it doesn't have a tooltip, but then I can add it. For example, let's say I want the tooltip to be the target. So I can grab the target and put it on the tooltip. It means when you hover over the chart, then it's gonna include the tooltip in the information. So it's gonna show you the target, blah, blah, blah. The target is already there, so maybe you can show something else. So for example, you can show the total number of people on the tooltips. So you can drag and drop this on the tooltips like that, which means when somebody moves their mouse over, they'll be able to see sorry, not what's going on here. Target field. Total mass, that target, no, not target there. Total amounts, maximum value is target. On the tooltips, I want total number of people. Okay, so if I move my mouse over on the chart, it's gonna show me that total amount and then the target, and shows me the total number of people. So you can add more information on the chart using tooltips. Now, let's talk about, people are asking here, no, we want you to talk about the FX. So the FX is called conditional formatting. Okay, so let's talk about the conditional formatting because it's really nice, right? It's really nice. So let's talk about that. Let's say that this number here, this is blue, right? 605,125. So let's say that we want, if the number is a certain number, then we want it to turn a certain color. So that's what we call conditional formatting. We know conditional formatting from Microsoft Excel, where you change different formatting options depending on the values that you have there. And that's pretty much what happens here as well. So I'm going to take this number, then I'm going to go to the format your visual. I'm going to go to, so you can change, if I go to colored value, right now the colored value is blue. I can change the color of the colored value depending on what value we have there. So for example, this is blue, then I can go to FX, okay? When I go to FX, it goes to, okay, color, colored value, format style, says gradient. I can but then, so this is a gradient. It's going to be like automatic value, but we can choose rules. If we choose rules, there's also field value. Okay, but let's choose rules. You can specify what happens when that rule is met. So for example, we have the field total amounts. Okay, so we're just going to use the same total amounts. That's fine. And then we're going to say, okay, if the total amount is, let's say, above a certain amount. So let's say if the total amount is greater than, let's say if it's greater than 500,000, okay? If it's greater than 500,000, okay, right now let's have two. Let's have, if it's minimum, let's just delete this. So if it's greater than the minimum, but less than, okay, so here you can choose what you want. If it's less than 500,000, then let's just remain with the color that we have there. Okay, remember we're changing this color there, the actual color of the callout value, so we can choose the specific color. I think it was that color there. Then I can add a new rule. Then I can say, okay, but then if it's greater than or equal to, let's say 500,000, but less than, let's say less than 1 million, then we want to change this maybe to a green. So I can go to more colors and go to just choose a green. Let's choose a certain a darker green. It's too dark. Maybe some, I don't know, something like yeah, it's not changing, is it? Something like that. Well, let's have that. Okay, so it's going to change to that specific color, and I can click OK. And right now, as you can see, it's above 500,000, so it becomes green, right? If I change the district and choose Ejisu, it falls below 500,000, it becomes blue. If I choose Tano, it falls below 500,000, becomes blue. If I remove, it goes up and it becomes green. And we can also add, for example, right now it's green. I don't think it looks nice with the background, which is blue. Let's have a lighter blue there. So I can go to the format your visual. I can go to general, go to effects, and I can use an FX again, the same FX on the background color. So again, it's based on the total amounts, but then we want to have rules, and I'm just gonna use the same rule. So I'm just gonna say if it's greater than equal to minimum but less than 500,000, then it's gonna be the same color that we're using here. What color is it? I've just forgotten the color. I think it's this one here. But I'm gonna put a new rule here. But if it's above 500,000 and below a million, then I'm going to make it a lighter green. So I'm just gonna go here. I'm gonna go on the green side, and then I'm gonna use this very light green like that. I'm gonna click OK. So now, as you can see, and we can even do the same thing with the border. So you can change the border color, you can change the text color, you can change the background color. There are so many settings that accept conditional formatting. So you can see here, there's this color there. On the category, you have the color as well of the category text. If you go on the general, you also have the text color of the title. You have the text color of the subtitle. You have the divider, the color of the divider, and then you have on the effects, you have the color of the background. Even the visual border can take the conditional formatting. And okay, so you have so many other different settings, and everywhere where you see a setting with FX, that is conditional formatting. So you can control what happens to it when the number goes above or below. So you can see that the moment I select something else, the whole visual changes with its color. And if I change to something else, it changes with its color. If I remove it, totally changes to a different color. And those colors can mean something depending on what you have. And that would be even nice if we add that to the gauge, that if it goes to a certain point, it becomes green, because goes to a certain point, becomes red, it goes to a certain point, becomes a different color. That would be really nice. And you can change that again by going to the formatting. You go to colors, you can see that the fill color was here. And if I go to FX, I can say, okay, once the value goes to this, let's change the color. So here, if I say on the rules, if it's greater than, I'm just gonna say if it's greater than or equal to 500,000, I'm just gonna put one rule here. And I'm just gonna make it green. So let's make it green. Just gonna make that green and done. So you can see now it's green, okay? But if it falls below, it becomes blue. It goes back to default. If it falls below, it becomes blue. If you remove it, it goes up and becomes green. So that is conditional formatting. We only remaining with like 10 minutes, so allow me to do this because I don't think we're gonna have time in the next workshop to talk about this. So these visuals that you have here, these are the default visuals that come together. But then there are even more visuals. So these are not all of the visuals you can add in Power BI. Okay, you can add even more visuals. Ronald, UI Pro member, you have access to the recordings. Don't worry, you're gonna revise that tomorrow once we post this video. Don't worry about it. We don't have time. There's just 10 minutes left, so we cannot repeat this. Sorry about that. So we're saying that there are even more. So you can see we don't have a histogram. You probably saw that. Like, we never talked about a histogram anyway. We have other statistical charts and other things, specialized things that are not here. But don't worry, because there are people who have developed those kinds of things, and they're available as what we call custom visuals. And you need to have an account, a Power BI account. Of course, you can download on what we call App Source, which is the website where you can download custom visuals. I have an account you're using here, and we're going to need that trial account again when we have to share this with others. On the Power BI website, it's app.powerbi.com. I think it's app.powerbi.com. Okay, just go there and create an account. So if you don't have an account yet, just create an account. It will give you this page. You just enter your email address. If it's your company email address, you might already have an account. It will tell you you already have an account. If you don't, then you just have to create an account. You enter the email address and it's going to take you step by step. You create an account, and that's what you're going to use to log in here. Once you log in, then here on the visuals, we have the ... button right here, and you can click that and select Get More Visuals. Okay, when you go to Get More Visuals, we're gonna now see the App Source page. It's gonna load up, and it's gonna show us, so you can see here, Power BI Visuals. And here, there are so many different visuals. Look, there's some are experimental, here saying water cup, drew down pie. Some are paid, some are free. You can filter up here. You can say, okay, what kind of visual you want. You want comparison, correlation, distribution. For example, if I go to distribution, I can see histogram is part of that. We haven't seen histogram. If you want a histogram, you're gonna have to come to this one. And you have this dendrograms, dandelions, ridge lines. These are also, some of these are statistical charts that we haven't seen yet. And you have a Plotly waterfall chart, and so you have all these categories. If you different types of maps, different types of narrative maps, part to whole relationships. You can see here, for example, this Asta plot chart, which is really nice. So if you change over time, you have lots of these. We've already talked about comparison. You have correlations. For example, the polar charts, they're not there. And okay, so let's just we have flow. Okay, you can look at flow, like the sun key diagram. We haven't seen the sun key diagram, but it's right here. You even have infographics. So infographics as a category. You should have, maybe if I choose, or maybe you haven't seen like a what do you call this? What do you call this? Text cloud. Let's see. I think we should have a cloud, text cloud. Huh. Yeah, we have a text. Yeah, word cloud. See, if you're analyzing qualitative data, you might want to have a word cloud. It's free. It's from Microsoft. If you have a field that has text, you can have a word cloud. You have another dial gauge here, and it's really nice. It's really powerful. But let's just pick one. I think let's just pick a histogram. I'm gonna have, say here, histogram, and then we have these different kinds of histogram. Others are paid, others are free. I'm gonna grab this one, and you pick that, and then you add it. So it gets added to the specific visual that you're creating. So it just gets added to the file. So next time you're building another one, you have to add it again. So I'm gonna say the sample file is downloaded. Okay. Oh, download sample file. No. I didn't want to download the sample file. Just add it. Okay, add it, and it's gonna download, and it's gonna get added to your visual. So you're gonna see it listed right here. You can see this. Sorry. Yeah. Now it's here. This is a histogram chart. We don't have a histogram here, so I can insert it, and now it comes like that, and now, okay. Now here I can grab a value and put it there. So for example, I can grab the age. We have age here. I can grab it and put it there. It says value 2 and then value weight, something like that. So different visuals are gonna be quite different depending, like they have their own kind of way to use them. Okay, let me try to put it here. So these different visuals will have different ways to use them. This doesn't really, like, it's crazy. So I've never used this before. The way it's not supposed to be that difficult to build. These guys are crazy. Okay, this one adds a lot of things. And histogram with point something. Let's add this one. Let's see if this one is going to be much easier to use. So different custom visuals are going to have, they're going to have different ways to use them, like I've said. I think this one is free of charge. So let's see, this one has to be beta. It's free of charge after all. Yeah, so this one doesn't require any license. It's free of charge. So I can grab the age and put it on the x-axis. So, sorry, the age has to, okay, there's X data and then there's Y data. Okay, so because it's a histogram, it has to go on the x-axis, I suppose. Okay, it's not showing anything. I need some values to go on the y-axis. Let me try the index. And yeah, so it actually works out and it actually draws that. It needed a value that's going to be summarized. So we have the index and it shows the Y data, and here we go. So histogram, you have the X and the Y, something like that. Again, custom visuals are gonna be, in terms of how you use them, they're gonna be different depending on that. Okay, reaching that far, guys, that was Power BI visuals in depth. That was a total 3 hours of just talking about visuals. That was a lot, I know, and some people have left us already, like lots of them. And yeah, thank you so much, and see you again in next weekend. And yeah, have a good one. Bye-bye.